who foster peace and prosperity. But that prosperity fosters weak gods, who then create hard times. Your judgment is here! Cronus.
It was only a matter of time before you came.
I know why you're doing this. Who you're trying to help.
You know nothing. I've set you free so we can take back what they've taken from us. We will make the universe tremble.
If we don't work together, Cronus will reign over us all.
Why would you do this?
For order must be restored.
Olympians, you cannot win.
Time to be great again.
Boom, 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 everybody. I was getting ready to say happy Saturday, but it's not Saturday. This is a special episode today. This is a Boz Day episode. And if you are a Blood of Zeus fan, today is a very special day. Final season 3 dropped today on Netflix, and I am super excited about today's episode because I get a chance to sit down with some of the compositing team for the show. We were able to score some interviews. One of our very own family member and former past guest works on the compositing team, so she was able to set this up. So we are super, super thankful for that and super excited about that. But my name is Don Terrell, and like I said, you are here live at a very special live episode of The Color of Motion. I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics, this space that I love so much. And you know the drill. This is always, even though it's a special one, it's a very interactive show. So hop in the comments, say, hey, where you tuning in from, so I can give you the shout out that you so richly deserve. But again, since this is a special episode, we're going to keep this one really tight and jump right into it. So without further ado, I think we can get this episode started. What do you say? Hey? Mm. Ooh, hopefully you heard that. My audio, I'm not hearing it on my end. So hopefully the audio went through. But we are back and ready to get this episode started. Again, let me know how everything's coming through on your end, because I always want to know. Again, since this is, like I said, a special episode, we're doing this a little different. And I'm going to let my guests kind of, give a little bio and tell you about themselves. But again, like I said, I am super excited about my next guests coming on. One particularly because, like I said, it's a former guest and family member, Miss Aubrey Eden Dukes, and she has brought a friend, Mr. Joseph Gonzales, compositing supervisor for the show. So I think without further ado, like I said, I am super excited to have them on. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guests. You get 2 for 1. My very special guest, returning guest, is Aubrey Eden Dukes and Mr. Joseph Gonzales.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
Thank you for joining today. Like I said, I'm super excited to have you, coming back, Aubrey. Like I said, Aubrey
Yeah.
is a family member. She's been on a couple of times, and she has brought a guest. And like I said, she reached out. She's been on the compositing team for Blood of Zeus for a couple of seasons. And she reached out and said, "Hey, I would love to do this. This is season, finale. I'll bring, Joseph along," and she made it happen. So I'm super, super excited, Aubrey, to have you back.
Team
And
effort.
super excited, Joseph, to have you on the show.
Well, I'm very honored to be a part of this, Don. So thank you for extending the invite. And Aubrey, thank you for twisting my arm to be a part of this show with you.
I was like, come on, it'll be great.
It'll be great. It'll be great. And like I said, I tried to make this a fun experience and a comfortable experience for the guests, and not only for the guests, but for the viewers as well. Like I said, normally I read the bio and background, but since we're doing this a little different and this was kind of short notice, I want each of you to kind of tell a little bit, just a little bit about you and yourself. Aubrey, ladies first. You can go ahead and tell us a little bit about
Sure.
you.
I'm a composer slash effects artist. I've been working in the industry for about 20 years now. I've worked at, Disney, Warner Brothers, Powerhouse, and a whole bunch of other places in the meantime. But yeah, just excited to come on here and chat it up for Blood of Zeus and get Joe the spotlight he needs for being such an awesome leader. So
Joe. And I will say for Joe, Aubrey is being modest. She is a super talented illustrator as well. And we're going to take a look at some of her work there too, which is, like I said, why I reached out in the first place. I just love their illustration work. But
thank you.
Joseph, tell us a little bit about you and how you kind of, got into this.
Sure. First, I agree with you, Don. Aubrey is a fantastic illustrator. So please, everybody, just go look at her Instagram and just look at all of her work and like everything. She's fantastic. She's amazing. And she's an amazing person, too, by the way.
Yes.
But to me, I've been in the industry since 2008. So it's, 16 years. And I've been working on, I worked on a little bit of bulk of my career is conversion, and then some of it was some VFX. And then now since 2018, I've been in mostly animation, and which I love. That was something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. And just to be a part of the process and of everything in general it's a blessing. And I've never saw a day of work of something that I reluctantly to do. It was something I was very passionate about in general. So it's been a blast, and I've been very, very blessed to have opportunities to work on some very, very fun shows during the course of my career.
Now, where did you get your formal training at schooling or degree? If you have a degree, where did you get your degree at and go to get your education?
I went to the Art Institute of
Oh.
Orange County.
Our
And it's same as
Institute of
Aubrey.
Love.
I think
I
think you went to the Santa Monica one, right?
Yeah, technically it was
and I went to the
Los
Houston one.
Angeles.
Oh, okay, Don, you went to Houston? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all three of us know that school is gone now.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I like to look about my experience during my time there is what I put into it, right? And everything and all my friends and colleagues that I went to school with, all the ones that I still talk to this day, they've been, still in the industry, still tapped in. And it's I think my class and the class that was before me, that was, I still have very, very close friendships with all of them. And then, so it's nice to see that, granted the school, what it was all the friends that I was with, we've all flourishing in some sort or thriving in some sort of type of way in the industry. So it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always what you put into it, because I feel the same. what happened with school happened with the school, but I loved it. I put everything into it. I was so excited. I was going to a university for 2 years, where I was miserable just because it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to do art, and when I finally transferred, I was like in heaven. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And same, I'm still very good friends with people that I went to school with who are still in the industry. So,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, you guys are doing better than me. I like the school. You know, like you said, the school it was what it was, and I think I don't know. I may have predated you both of you guys. I graduated in '87, so that was a little while. Um,
well,
but like I said, and I don't think I talked or am in still contact with anybody that I graduated with. And that when I went, they didn't even have animation. They weren't even offering animation then. When I went,
oh,
I went
really?
for no. They started offering the next year after I graduated. I went for traditional graphic design, you know, and visual
Oh,
communication.
nice.
So,
I
you
went,
know,
I went for game art, and then I landed in like post production, like VFX and stuff like that, and which is totally, I think, is more my speed.
yeah,
I love games. I just, now that you have a family, I don't really play games as much. So like, I mean, I still like I love the art of games. Like I'm always a big person of art in general. So
yeah.
anything of any medium it comes in, I'm always like gawking over it. Like I always send Aubrey things on Instagram. Like we always like geek out on it and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious then, what did you think of, and since it's a Netflix alum, what did you think of Arcane?
Oh,
Oh man, I, I love that show. That show
so
is so
good.
beautiful. I mean, I feel like anybody that hasn't been able to touch a show like Arcane, it's like something that we always strive for. Like
Mm-hmm.
it, like in order to work on a show like Arcane, as beautiful as it is, it's like it's gratifying, but also you get paid to work on something like that. And I was like, man, and also from a fan myself, I always like look at it, I study what they do. Like I'm always like
Yeah.
deconstructing everything that they've done. And me and Aubrey have many conversations about that show specifically, when it comes to like comp, animation, effects, like all of it, right? Composition.
Beautiful blend.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
Just a
regards
beautiful
to
blend.
that, was there any particular scene that you were like, wow, how did they pull this scene off? I mean, you could say that about the whole thing, but just a scene comping it together. Was there any one particular scene that stuck out to you?
Uh,
Um,
Aubrey, you go. You
honestly,
can.
for me, like, I mean, it's hard to pick just one, right? Because like what they were doing with blending of 2D and 3D elements, like 2D effects on top of 3D assets, and the painterly look of the
Yeah,
textures of everything. Like it was all beautiful. Like the whole show was a marvel, and the acting that went into it. There were several scenes where it was like I, I'm not even looking at the effects right now. I'm just looking at the acting,
yeah,
just like the subtle movements of the characters that feel very real, very human. And like the talent in that show is beyond, and it is really, really motivating. Like that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, I'm going to be a snob about it. I want to have no lights on. I want to have it on the big TV. I want to have no
you gotta
interruptions.
experience it.
Yeah, like I want to be completely immersed in the show, and like just yeah, like Joe and I would talk about it all the time. There'll be times where we'd be working on Blood of Zeus thinking like, let's pay attention to some of the stuff that they were doing in the scene. Let's see how like the movement with fire, or like some of the treatment they've done with smoke,
Yeah,
just to have something to look at for a reference to get the wheels going on kind of stuff we want to play with and experiment with. And
yeah,
just a beautiful show.
yeah,
And to tack on to what Aubrey was saying, like there was for me, like I really dive into Arcane, I think right before I got onto Blood of Zeus. And like so I was like going on to that, and then even my interview with like the supervising director Jay, when they were interviewing me for the show, I pulled in a lot of things that I learned visually from that, and just like brought into the interview. And like Jay was very impressed. I think he was impressed, but it was the thing that I gravitated to. Was there was a scene, I believe it's like episode season 1, and it might be episode 4 or 5. It's when the hero, I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but someone help me out.
Jinx. You're not
Vi?
talking about Jinx. You're talking about his
Yeah,
sister.
the sister, yeah.
Vi.
Vi.
Vi, they're going down, and then they're the Undercity, and like they're like basically she has the gauntlets out, right?
Mhm.
And that's when all the lightning is
Oh,
coming
yeah.
out. So like the electricity. So like I definitely looked at that when I was working on Boss specifically, right? Because and also I was coming up with some creative stuff for Boz and for like Zeus and Heron for the show. And I was like, oh, like there's things that they did on Arcane. I was like, I would love to do it on this show, even just like a small part of it. And so like adding Chromatic Aberration when we were doing some of the lightning scenes, that was something I definitely pulled from Arcane itself onto Boz.
Nice.
Yeah, that's such good stuff.
I want to, well, before we do, Mr. Dakota, I want to move this over here. Facts, for sure. Dakota,
What's up,
I
Dakota?
What up, Dakota?
appreciate you tuning in. Just kind of as a first, what does compositing entail, and specifically, what is the job of the supervising compositor, and how that fits in your role?
Oh, question for me?
Well,
Okay.
Aubrey, as a compositor,
Okay.
you know, you can say, okay, what is compositing as it pertains to animation and putting the shots together
Sure.
and everything that goes in. Joseph, for you, what does a supervising compositor, what's the role of a supervising compositor do?
Well, I think the thing that was really exciting about this show, because honestly, in my experience working in compositing, uh, the base responsibilities are the same. You know, you're taking assets and you're integrating them together to feel like a cohesive scene. You're having to be resourceful with the tools that you have to enhance what you're working on. And so those principles are pretty universal in the compositing world, but every job I've worked on has had a lot of variation to it. And the thing that was really fun to do on Blood of Zeus is when Joe initially got me on the team, we were starting out doing previs effects stylizing. So we were looking at the animatics. The storyboard work was beautiful. Like those artists are incredible. And we were taking the effects from those boards. We were having involved discussions with JChem, the supervising director, and we were trying to provide guides for the overseas studio to bring these effects and stylize them for final. And then, eventually they come back to us for like the next stage of compositing. But that was sort of the first tier that we were involved with on the show. The second aspect of that was when we eventually moved into final and we're getting stuff back from overseas. Joe, the producers, the producer Mike Hughes, Jay Kim, the supervising director, are all meeting together and trying to figure out, this kind of steps on a little bit of what Joe's going to talk about, but like, what can we enhance? Joe, I'll kind of let you take over. That's more of your purview, but
I mean, no, I mean you're on the right track, Aubrey. So
oh no, it's just giving you an opportunity.
that's one of the things, Don, is like me and Aubrey pretty much on this. Everything we say we're like in the same thought process. So it's like whatever she's saying, I 100% agree with everything she's saying. In terms of like our work in the animation and stuff like that. But as a comp suit for the show, like I definitely like I leaned in a lot. Like first and foremost, I'm an artist, right? And so like anything that like the director wants, Jay, he's like me and him and Aubrey for sure. Like we all like the same things, so it was easy to work with him in general because he would say like, "Hey, I want to apply this. Can we try?" And right before he's finishing his thought, I will like not interrupt, but I will like, "Are you like insinuating this?" And he was like, "That's exactly it. That's exactly right." And so that chemistry that I was able to work with him, it gelled very nicely, and it was easy for me to basically understand what Jay wanted, what the writers wanted, and what also our producer Mike wanted. So like bringing all that together, watching the reels, and just basically studying. And we also, as a supervisor, you want to touch everything. You want to make sure everything looks amazing. Unfortunately, time is against you. It's always against you, and you're like, okay, you have to pick your battles. And that was one of the things that we did on the show. Was like, I would sit and I would watch these reels, and I'm like, okay, this is great, but we have to focus here. Or if Jay wanted something specific, I was like, okay, cool. Like we have to make sure that this moment in particular it shines, right? And so that was a lot of things I had to do. And then also like I want to give a big shout out to our comp team in general. Like Aubrey is obviously part of that, but we had like some amazing artists that helped join me on the show, and they're all friends. So like they were like very very trustworthy of like of the vision that Jay wanted.
Yeah.
And so like it was easy to have a conversation with the artists we had. And then everybody, we were just jamming, man. It was fun. I mean, there was times that were like, not rough, but like, oh man, this is gonna be a thing for sure. And like
but those are the times you want to be with somebody that you're comfortable with, and that you have a good rapport with. Those hard times, because it's easier to get through when you have people that you've worked with before, which kind of brings me to the question. You and Aubrey have, like you said, history. You've worked on, other projects before. How important was that, in when you brought her on for Blood of Zeus, just having the comfortability of, hey, I know what Aubrey can do. I know her work, and it's easy. This secondhand kind of conversation.
Let me correct the both of you guys. I did not bring Aubrey on.
Oh, okay, okay.
I presented an opportunity, and then Aubrey, Aubrey got herself onto the show. Like she's an amazing artist, an amazing person. Like the producers and the directors saw that, and they brought her on. I was just like, they're like, hey, do you have somebody? I was like, yes. And so like if anything, I felt like I was trying to persuade her to get onto the show with me, because I was like I need my person, and then she's my person. I was like, I need you with me during this journey, this battle of the gods here. So I was very very happy that she accepted the role.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and we had worked together like over 15 years ago at another studio. We were basically just like two ships passing. There was like a 2-week window where we were on the same team, and we had always remembered each other. And I think that's a really good sign, because though I didn't have a lot of time with Joe, I always remembered that he was a really positive presence. He was really energetic, and he was just like easy to be around.
Yeah.
And so when we were reunited again on Harley Quinn, we worked on season 3. And it was the first time I had been brought on to a new show working remote. Prior to that, I'd been at Disney, where we worked in the office, and transitioned into remote life because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it was a really strange experience to join a new team where I was like, oh, I don't like know a lot of people here. And so when Joe joined the team, we just like gravitated to each other. Like we touch base almost every day. It was just like another person to talk to, where we didn't feel like we were on an island. We had a touchstone where it's like, oh, like there's this thing I want to figure out. I'm going to run it by Joe. Maybe he can help me brainstorm, or vice versa. And we just developed this very easy connection, so that when that contract ended, he started working on Blood of Zeus. I was deciding between a couple of places, and he had called me up, and it was one of those things where it was like a happy problem of like choosing between places. But Joe and I worked together so well, and it was kind of in this place where, Powerhouse is an established, awesome studio based in Austin.
Yeah.
And this was an LA branch that was just starting. And like, I love being a part of something as it's like developing. And I was like, great, I get to join a friend of mine who I know that I work really well with on like a cool show that I'm a fan of, at a studio I've always wanted to work at.
Yeah.
but we kind of get to start something new together. And so it was a kind of a easy yes, like, all in, Joe.
Awesome. Awesome. And obviously, you know, this under under I don't want to say what's that uplifts or just under supports the notion of relationships and having relationships and building relationships, and how that seems to be the thing. You know, you find somebody that you can work with and get along with, and you just obviously remember them when you move on to something different, like that. Before we dive into some of the shots for Blood of Zeus, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, obviously industry. You've been, you know, working. I think Joseph, you've been on the full run of Blood of Zeus 3 years, and you, Aubrey, two
Yeah, I
seasons,
think
or have you been on for the full run
yeah,
of the seasons?
I got on to it, I believe was June of 2022, and then I presented the opportunity to Aubrey around, what was it, like August, September?
Yeah, about there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
how do
so
you
pretty close the
see?
whole time.
So how do you see like some of the, I guess, things that are coming out now, especially with like smaller studios like Powerhouse and some of the studios. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on Flow, the Oscar win for Flow, and just kind of the direction that, you know, some animations are going, and maybe it's not so much the bigger studios like Disney or things like that. People are wanting different types. You know, like you said, Blood of Zeus is a different style than the typical type. Um, Kind of how are you seeing it, you know, now, especially, you know, you, Aubrey, since the last time we talked, there have been a lot of new things coming out and have come out.
Sure. It's well, Joe, do you want to start off?
Sure. Well, I guess this leans into a little bit of how I oh well, Flow is amazing. Like it was a beautiful piece, right? It's great to see like smaller studios like that, you know, get wins, and right, and they did it all in Blender, which is an amazing program as well, which is 100% free, and that's awesome. Like if you're an artist and you don't have a
Yeah.
whole lot of money and you just want to create something digitally, that is a fantastic software to use for sure. And I also like to lean in Unreal as well. That's also
Yeah.
free as well. Like that's also something I advocate for almost everybody that I've talked to that is a creative. Like, you don't have to pay for all these expensive programs or softwares. Like, there's some really, really good ones out there that are free, right? And I've been diving into Unreal myself, you know, as after I rolled off Blood of Zeus. But going back to the studio that created Flow, I I I commend that studio for like a lot, and I also like to think of like the studio did Godzilla -1. Like that was
Yeah.
a small team as well,
Yeah.
and that's something I try to utilize when we're on Boss. Is like, you know, one thing is like for sure is like there's a lot of people that have like a lot of opinions, and the thing about working with Jay was like it was so great. It was that like, you know, me and him agreed on a lot of things in general, and so like I utilized that. And I remember my experience with working on Green Eggs and Ham when I was working with Bill Perkins. Like he used to do drive-bys and just basically it's not a review. It's just Bill, the art director, coming in, seeing what you're working on, and he'll give you like a drive-by of notes. And that's what I would like to do on the show. And I feel like it was executed like seamlessly on the show because like whenever we had reviews, we had like a really high approval rate, and it was great because like, you know, Jay was like, that's exactly what I was looking for. And so having that type of like, you know, relationship, and also building off of that with the artists them as well, they start to see where, you know, where Jay wants as well. And like I'm blessed noting, and I'm like, all right, this looks fantastic, and you're giving praises and like making sure that the team is succeeding and that they're doing well. Like everybody's building off of that type of like, you know, just we're all harmonizing that in that way.
The really special thing that I think we felt on Blood of Zeus is that There was a lot of trust that was extended to like the various tiers of the production. Like there was a lot of trust extended to Joe from Jay, the supervisor, Michael, the producer, and Charlie and Vlas, the creators, because they established, a rapport. Like they understood that Joe is going to get what they need, and so there was a lot of trust extended to him, and in turn, there was a lot of trust extended from Joe to us on the team in terms of what he knew we could get out. There was just this really great relationship that we all developed with each other. There's a lot of respect and a lot of trust and great mentorship too.
Yeah.
Like no real like egos. Like everyone was really willing to share. Everyone, Jay was great in extending a lot of his knowledge to us. I felt like I learned so much on the show, and it was very visible seeing how much the other artist grew on the show. And I give a lot of credit to Joe because, yes, he knew a lot of us as friends, but he knew us as artists.
Yeah.
So, he could entrust, like, hey, like I'm going to give you some really difficult shots. I know I can trust you to get them out, you know, but after a period of time, it's like, okay, I've given you these shots. Let's give you a little bit of a break. Let's kind of let your brain kind of, have a minute to itself to have something that's like not so intensive. So
Yeah.
just aren't like burning and churning so hard for so long. Like he'd give people breaks and he would give other people opportunities to like push themselves and challenge themselves. And so it was really rewarding to see someone start out on the show who was really great in one aspect and kind of self-conscious in another. And by the end of the show, everyone's feeling confident taking on kind of anything.
Yeah.
And not every show works like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons, of course. Sometimes it's just a matter of like, we have no time. Just like we're shoving this to the
Yeah.
people who we know we can take care of what. But, this was a really intense show and it was really difficult. But Joe took the time of like trying to keep things moving in such a way where everyone got to grow individually and as a team. And that was one of the things we all loved about the show.
Yeah.
I I will want to speak about that. There was a reason why I did that. Like Aubrey said, like I've been a part, and herself as well. I've been a part of shows where like you always have the heavy hitters, and then you got some people that just do some of like the smaller, easier stuff, and then that's just how it is. And like for me, like I was typically a part of those heavy hitters, like the squad, and you get burned out and you're like, man, like I wish I really had somebody else to help me out on this or whatever. And then also the other side of that is like you got the junior artists that they want to help, but they can't because they're kind of pigeonholed in this like in this for whatever reason, right? And that is something I made sure I took the time to spend time with every individual artist to build them up, right? Because I wanted the entire team to be heavy hitters.
Yeah.
That way, if Aubrey is drowning in something, like I can send it over to like Maria, or I can send it to somebody else like Jude or anybody on the team.
Yeah.
And then there was an artist that we had that Don, you've watched the show, so like the Hermes sequence where he's doing like his special powers, like that was a thing too. And like the artist in me, I always want to do all the hard shots. Like I said before, like I'm usually the heavy, and then that was something I had to reluctantly do. I was like, okay, I guess you can do these. Like internally, I would say that to myself, but I was like, I would present it into a way to the artist would. It felt like it was a challenge, but it was something that they can attain themselves as well, giving them that confidence, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was a junior artist, there was sometimes that when I was like, I wish I had like a senior artist that would just give me that confidence, because like I knew I can do it. Sometimes you just need that that confidence, that support, right? And I always wanted to make sure that the team felt comfortable coming to me with anything. It doesn't matter what. And like Aubrey said earlier, like sometimes some artists, everybody, like they get burnt out and they're like, I just want to do some simple stuff right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Something simple that my brain doesn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's like, there's a lot of that in the show. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, absolutely. Like whatever that I can do to help that you, because it's like, help me, like, let me help you because you're helping me in the end, right?
Yeah. Help me help you.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, help me. That's what I like to say.
Help you, help me, help you. It's a back and forth thing. But do you think that you would get that more quicker or you get that more quicker at smaller studios where you do have that kind of flexibility to where, you know, seniors will kind of let the juniors kind of flex a little, whereas you might not get that at, say, a bigger studio where they're just, hey, we need these shots done, and, you know, if we don't think that you can handle it, we need the heavy hitters to handle it to get the shots done, type of thing.
I feel like a lot of that is really dependent on leadership. Um, you know, because what it's all about is it's about trust, right? It's like I need to trust my artists to do what I've asked them to do, and the artists also need to trust me to like direct them,
Yeah.
essentially. And so every place is different. You know, we've both worked at big studios, we've both worked at smaller studios, and I'm personally a fan of the like medium to smaller because the teams are usually a little bit smaller. Like we've both worked at places where you're just part of this like massive,
Yeah.
you know, machine, and you feel like you feel a little bit more seen. I think there's a
Yeah.
little bit more of a team camaraderie when things are a little bit more condensed, a little smaller. But you know, in defense of some people, it's not just. I don't want to indicate that like bad leaders don't know how to delegate, because sometimes it is a matter of like these studios can be pressure cookers, and some of these places burn out their artists from all levels, even management, and you know tire you out. And so I think it's hard to make a lot of decisions when you're in that environment to like extend a lot of trust or patience or time to people who are new or people who are looking to push themselves farther. Um, you know, it's a tough industry, but uh, I I have a lot of faith for like the indie studios and the smaller studios.
Yeah.
But I don't want to monopolize the question. By all means, Joe.
Well, I kind of forgot the question. What was I was so wrapped up in your answer, Aubrey, so I like forgot what the question was.
I was too. I think I forgot to.
But I'll say this. You know, like
Giving
when I
chances to newer artists. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
not
do you
giving
think you would
chances, like,
find that? Do you think you would get that chance more in smaller studios as opposed to bigger studios, where, like Aubrey was saying, you're just part of this massive thing, and you know,
I'm a little indifferent. I mean, I agree with Aubrey. Like, it does depend on the leadership, but it also does depend on the time frame too of like whatever particular project you're on. Sometimes, some as a VFX artist, you're like working on this show, and then this other show needs some 911 work, and they're just cherry picking people they need to put on this. And then sometimes as a junior artist, you're like, oh, I wish I was a part of that. But you know, whatever the situation is, like you kind of just go do it and whatever you're handed to at that point. For me, my experience when I was like, a senior artist, and even like I still consider myself just an artist. Like I don't consider myself a supervisor, but like maybe that's a good thing. But like when I was an artist, like I would like want to take on everything only because I want to gain experience. I'm like Goku or like Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. Like I just want all the experience. I want all of it. I want everything. So if I ever encounter something that I don't know how to do, I'm like, okay, this is a new challenge. This is fun for me, right? And then like I had a leadership person tell me when I used to live in Toronto in Canada, and so like, and I think he was proud of me because he saw that like the leadership skills inside of me, and he was like, great leaders know how to delegate, and that's always struck a chord with me. And so when I was presented this opportunity to be part of a supervisor for the show, that was something I listened to, or I thought about very heavily. And I was able to lean on Aubrey for some tasks that were pretty difficult. And then I was also like I mentioned earlier, like the team that we had, they're all friends. So like it was easy to trust them with tasks. And if
yeah,
they were uncomfortable with the situation or some task, they would be able to come to me and we would talk about it. And if they were still uneasy, didn't want to do it, that's okay. Like you can tell me no, that's okay. What am I gonna do? Reprimand you because you want to do your work, do some shot? I can give it to somebody else, or I can do it. Like I always want to make sure that people are comfortable with learning and having fun at the same time, like, right, like, and sometimes life happens too, right? Like if you have somebody that is a heavy hitter or like a senior artist, but life beyond work is happening, like that's like, of course, like you deserve to take some cruise control, like to take some easy shots, like it's all about, I feel like while I was on the show I was always like playing chess, doing things like just trying to get the ball moving or make the train, like the show moving, progressing, right? Like I never wanted to make anybody feel like they were pigeonholed or make it feel like they're like, oh, man, like I have to do this, I'm gonna let Joe down, like. And if an artist did feel like that, I apologize. I'm sorry. I could be intense sometimes. It's just because I'm very passionate. But like
Uh,
every single
well, I'm sure projects like that get, like I said, you got a lot on the line. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of pressure. I'm sure, like you said, it's an intense situation just to get through, for sure.
It's a reminder, like every now and then we have to tell ourselves like we're working on an animated show. Like this is something that we've wanted to do since we were kids. We're working on an animated show that people are using as a form of escapism, to, who love Greek mythology, who just want to get lost in that world. And like sometimes you need to have that reminder of like when things get really intense because they do on any show. Like commercials,
Yeah.
trailers, like whatever tier of creativity that you're working, there's always going to be like a pressure
Kutcher?
cooker
Cooker.
situation.
Not to say
There's
Ashton
going to be
Kutcher.
there. I can get it out, I swear.
We're
It's
having
going
a
to be
lot
a
of
high
fun,
intense
everybody.
situation. Oh yeah,
I mean, I
but
love that you
it's a
said that
good
though.
reminder.
I love
Yeah,
that, like you said, because that was something that we all said collectively on the shows. Like, we're not brain surgeons, we're not curing cancer. Like, we're working on a cartoon series. This is supposed to be fun, guys.
Yeah.
And that is like something I always think about and I carry with every show that I'm part of, no matter how stressed it is. It's like life can be so much worse, and we are so blessed to be working on something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for you
yeah.
as a supervisor, was it, because I think it's hard for any creative, especially when they're bringing on, you know, other people to work on the project, to relinquish, like you said, the control and just the trust. Was that a difficult kind of transition for you, moving from, okay, like you said, you're a creator, but now you have to manage
Yeah.
people in a team?
I definitely had my internal struggles, like as an artist for sure, because I would always talk to Aubrey about it, like, because we're friends, and I would be like, oh man, I want to do this so much, and I'm just like, all right, I guess you can do it, I guess, and then like, but whenever those, you know, situations presented themselves, I always took it in stride. I always made sure that like whatever the artist was, the task that was at hand, I would always make sure there was detailed notes, whatever Jay wanted or whatever the creators of the show wanted, that it got hit. And also like it's good to see your friends succeed. Like that's the other part of it. Like them just getting that spotlight on them. Like when if like we had this a lot on the show, and I feel like we were very, very lucky to have Jay a part of the show because uh, whenever something would come on that he knew that was coming up, he'd be so excited. He was like, "That's what I'm talking about. That's what's up." And then with that in
Yeah,
itself, as a supervisor, when you see the director, his instant response, looking at something that you're looking at, and like he's like, "That's it," and then having all the artists in the room as well. That was something that Aubrey and myself advocated for. Was like we wanted to make sure the not just senior artists, but all the artists were involved during reviews. That way, you can get firsthand his notes instead of it
yeah,
being like a phone call, like telephone, him telling me and I'm telling them. Like that was something I always made
yeah,
sure that we did. And I want to thank Dario, like if he's watching, I want to thank Dario because he was like an advocate for us and Lynn to have the other artists involved in this process because it's important, right? Like that way they build the relationship with Jay as well, so like they know
yeah.
not just Jay just knows me, like Jay
Yeah.
knows the whole crew.
Yeah, Dario Barrera and Lynn Barzola are both associate producers on the show. Like everyone on the show was incredibly supportive. We worked really hard to maintain like a positive atmosphere. There's a lot of advocacy, and yeah, like Joe and I had talks about it, and you know, he was in a position of authority to like make sure that we really enforce this. But like having the artists there to like hear the supervising director receive their shots and like
Yeah.
give notes, of course it's like important to hear notes right away, but just to like hear that like, oh, awesome, nailed it,
Yeah.
loved it, you know, who did this, oh,
Yeah.
like Kyle Harden
Go
did this, amazing,
Yeah.
Maria
goes a long
Pham,
way.
awesome, like
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say
you
this
know,
though,
like
Don. I did have moments where I saw something. I was like, I'm doing that. I don't care what anybody says. I'm doing that.
oh
So
yeah.
I would
There
not all the time because like, you know, like as many things I wanted to touch, you're in management at this point, right? And you have to make sure your team is doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, and that was not hard on this show. It was so easy. It was easy to work with everybody. But like I did have my own moments. I was like, I'm doing this for myself. I want to do this. Like
yeah,
I'm like
there
I said,
was
I identify
uh,
as an artist, Don. So like if there's an opportunity for me to do something that I want to do on the
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure Joe is gonna do
You
it.
got first picks.
Yeah.
there was a couple times where it's like, hey Joe, I see this shot sitting there and we're
Yeah.
getting close to a deadline, do you want me to help? No, I got it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I'm stubborn. I'm very stubborn.
But
But I feel
I
like
do want to make one correction, if I may,
go ahead.
because I want to keep uh, supporting and calling or shouting you out as a supervisor. Is not everyone on the show was a friend hire. There were people on the show who Joe had not had experience with before, and I
Mm,
think you know he was able to pretty seamlessly uh, lead all of us in a really confident way.
yeah.
And I just want to make sure I made that distinction for anyone else out there looking for more comp supervisors. Like, you know, you were able to lead a whole team. There were times on the show where it was just me and Joe, and there were times when our team, I think at its largest, the comp team specifically, was 9 people deep. And when the show is getting towards the end of a season, things are really intense because, of course, like the first episode and the last episode tend to be the heaviest. You're having to juggle a lot of stuff. You're having to touch base with a lot of different people, and you know things can get really intense. But you know he was able to delegate. You know, we were able to work together in a sense that kept you know the show going, and everyone was really um, everyone left the show feeling really proud. Like everyone left the show with an opportunity to have stylized something themselves. So everyone has like a cool portfolio piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like that challenge of seeing like, "Oh, I was kind of nervous about this and I did it. I got to do something I'm really proud of. And like at a certain point, I did it with confidence. And like at a certain point, like didn't even think about it. Like Joe assigned me to do something. Sure, whatever it is, I got it. You know, like I think a lot of people had that experience on the team, and that's an achievement from leadership.
Wow.
I think the terminology when I keep saying friends, like I think I associate everybody as friends, right? And then Aubrey's right. Like there was artists that were on the show that I had no relationship with, and I think this goes back to like my mentorship or my leadership is like I always think about when I was a junior artist how I would want it to be treated, right? And so I always made sure that it was open arms always. And like the best thing about the show is like whenever we had an artist that was like, you know, not too keen on like experience or anything like that or what the show was about, I always made sure that they understood where like you know what we were doing, what we did, right, and what we're going to go to, right, and also ask them what they wanted out of this show, like what experiences they wanted, right, and most of the time is like they just wanted to they were sponges and they just want to absorb all the knowledge that I knew. And when you have artists like that that are willing to listen and sit down and also absorb and ask great questions, that's easy. Like
Mm,
I'll work with anybody in that regard. It's sometimes you have at other places like egos always come into play, and that was one thing Aubrey said earlier in this this conversation is that there was no egos, so it was great working with everybody.
Yeah,
awesome. Awesome. Mr. Blood of Zeus. I'm not sure who that is, but they are awesome. Comp team for the win. He loves it. So he's obviously connected with Blood of Zeus there.
Thank you so much.
Aubrey, I want to hear from both. Before we look at, like I said, we're getting ready to take a look at some of the shots and kind of go through. Well, we can jump over there now and kind of talk
Yeah,
through some of them.
sure.
But I want to know, like, what was the thing that you took away from this experience? What you said you grew,
Yeah.
y'all had a chance to grow as an artist and as a creator. What did you come out of this with?
I think for me, this was an opportunity to really dive into that again very early, where, you know, Joe, myself, the team, like the wider team that was involved at this phase, like we all kind of got to build this together. So I felt like I had a voice. We felt like we were contributing, and that when I left the place better, and I felt like I myself left better.
Let's see. I'll try and Aubrey froze there. Let me see if I can message her.
I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah.
This happens time, Don. It's not new to me. Aubrey always leaves meetings.
Live.
Aubrey
Aubrey
just
will be
wanted to do a
back.
mic drop. She said her answer. She mic dropped and she left.
Yeah. I'm
Typical
gonna take
Aubrey
her out.
back.
I'm pretty sure she'll log back in. So I'm gonna take her out and have her. She'll log back. Yeah, she logged back in. What? She logged out. Hold on. Maybe she'll log back in. But as she logs back in, I'm curious, Joe, what you kind of pulled from, your time on, Blood of Zeus, and how that differed from your time on Harley Quinn.
Well, Harley Quinn, I was just an artist. So most of the time on Harley Quinn was just making sure all my tasks were hit. For Blood of Zeus was a bit different because I forced myself to still be an artist. That was something I was always keen on. I was like, I was, as much as I love the craft, I still want to be a part of it and I still want to do it. And so that was like the hardest thing for me. Like Aubrey touched on it earlier, is like I will assign myself stuff, and then I would also ask our production staff, like, when's the due date? When's this due? And then I would just try just noodle it, and then I'm like, oh, we got a 911 situation in the sequence here. I'm like, oh, man, dang. And so I have to pause on what I'm doing here, go and see what's the issue, and then try to make sure like I'm massaging and making sure everything is looking a lot better, right? And then that would have to me like having conversations with the artist and what we can do to fix things. So I guess that was like the thing I learned how to manage my time well. Like, when you're a union artist, like you have union hours, you have to work within that realm, right? And so like I would definitely had to juggle my time management. My wife always says I'm bad at time management. I'm always running late.
Yeah.
But I think it's different when it comes to work, and especially when you have priorities, right? And like if you want something to look good, you have to make sure like, you're having communication with the artist, communication with the production staff, communication with the directors, and also sometimes even like, the producers, right?
Yeah.
And then and sometimes the communication would get extended out to the creators of the show as well. So that was something I've definitely before we started this this podcast, I talked about me being shy, and that opened up this position forced me to be not an introvert, and make sure I have those conversations with those people, because if you don't communicate and you don't get things said to you early on, like time is wasted. And that happened a little bit early on in the show, and I learned very quickly. I was like, okay, I have to start speaking a lot more. And like, if even if I'm uncomfortable about something, I have to voice my opinion, or if an artist is saying something I have to advocate for that said artist, right? I always wanted to make sure the artist and the team, like, whatever they had any concerns, I always expressed them to whoever I needed to do. And that, I guess communication, time management and communication is what I learned during this process. And like Aubrey as well, like she got to do a lot of the effects, and so did I at the beginning too. That was something I I didn't really get to do too much when I was on other previous animation shows, and so that was fun. Like it was fun to start creating effects and like, oh, okay, cool. Welcome back.
Sorry.
It's good to see you.
I think she froze again. I
Yeah.
hope that's
Oh,
not me.
great.
Okay, there she is.
I was like, great image to freeze on. Cool. Okay.
Oh, you did great. You're doing fine.
Oh man. But I'm curious though, Joe, when you I lost my train of thought just that quick.
I mean, I did explode just into the
Yeah, I was
conversation.
Aubrey
Sorry.
does that sometimes. She'll just be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah, my head just exploded there. But well, I'll go back to this one then, since what is, I'll ask this. Yeah, this was the question I wanted to ask, because I don't think a lot of people get like the schedule for, say, like a Netflix show. How does it break out to like a season time wise that you're working on the show? So is that one whole year? I mean, how long does it take to do the amount of episodes for the season?
Well, I can answer unless you want to answer, Aubrey.
No, go ahead.
When I initially got part of the show, like I stated earlier, it was June 2022, and at that point in time, they had already like slated a timeline of like when this is when season 2 is going to be done, and we're just going to roll on season 3, and they're like, here's your contract, you're going to be a part of 2 seasons. It was like, oh, this is fantastic, right? And then like things get extended over time, right? Because of various reasons, and that's, I think initially like we were supposed to be done in like the summer of 2024, and then we didn't actually finish completely until like close to like what, October of 2024.
October,
Yeah. So like there are things that happen when shows get extended. I won't go
and that's
into
just for comp,
the details.
by the way.
But it, like sometimes there could be, something can be reboarded up, and that changes everything in animation, right? And so like that whole process is be changed, or if there's like new animation that comes in, and then like that also halts sections of the thing. I'll say this about season 3. There is the first episode. It was like it's one of my favorite episodes of season 3. I feel like comp we did as much as we could during the time that we had, right? And I want to commend Mike and Jay for being patient. Mike Hughes being the producer, and Jay Kim being the supervising director, because Jay had always said to us in meetings, like, it's always the first episode and the last episode you want to hit out of the park, right? Those are the biggest ones always. And for season 3, that episode is wild. If you haven't watched it yet, please let me know your
season 3 yet.
It's intense. And so like I had to spend some time and look at it like I said earlier. I was like, as an artist, I want to touch everything. I want to make sure everything looks pretty. But as a manager, you're like, okay, we only have this much amount of time. How can we do this and make sure the show is elevated overall, right? And Mike came up with this, our producer came up with this brilliant plan. It was like, well, what if we do this, and then like we'll move on to the next episode, but we'll have someone else lingering on it, and then we can just noodle it over a course of period of time, right? And so like we do have these internal deadlines for each episode though with Netflix, and so we have to make sure we hit these marks, and we also have sound effects and color. Like you have to hit all those things, right?
Yeah.
And then so it's a schedule, and it can get kind of tricky when you're working on episode 1 still, but you're on episode 3, and then episode 2 is finishing out. Like it could, as a supervisor, I was like, oh my god, what are we doing? I'm a little
Wow.
So it can get pretty tricky sometimes.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
well.
it can be. That's I think something I'd written you earlier, or even just something I'd posted about, where it's like the finale for this is a long time coming, because the schedules that we're talking about are kind of specific to comp, But obviously, there's a whole other timeline in which there are board artists, concept artists, animators, designers, like background artists, like this whole other, like these whole other teams that are working on the show prior to us. So to think like there are people who have been working on this. The first season was released in 2020.
Well, you said earlier that there was a point where it was just you two, right?
Yeah.
It was at the beginning.
So does it fluctuate? Obviously, the team fluctuates as far as like the people that are working on it, or okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the management side, right? Like I spoke about earlier about like sometimes you're juggling 3 episodes at once, right? And every episode has its own deadline, and sometimes these deadlines are like weeks, sometimes days apart. And so you're like, okay, I'm gonna hang back myself. I'm gonna start, finishing out the little like, button up everything on this episode, and then I'll have maybe Aubrey or another artist with me, and then I'll have another artist that like move forward onto the next episode, get all the stylizing or hitting all the big harder things first, right? And then the most of the team is on the current episode, so it's like it's a little bit of a juggling thing. Yeah.
So
yeah, it was initially
No, go ahead,
No, go
Aubrey.
Well, I was just gonna say initially it was just the two of us, and it was before we had gone into like essentially post. That's when Joe and I were both doing some key lighting on characters, and we were also doing again like the
artists like match what she's doing, right? Or I would do like, or Aubrey would work on the whole sequence sometimes too. Like some artists would work on full sequences. In this episode, this is 207. There's a whole beginning part which I didn't supply the video, but like there's a whole like spore sequence, and like I had one artist do the whole sequence because like his name is Matt Johnson. Hey Matt. Like he did all of the blood, he added all extra blood to it, and like it was very gory and fun. But like he did that whole opening sequence himself, and well, I guess Kyle Harden did a couple scenes, but I would say 90% of it was all Matt. Like,
is this feeling really chaotic, or is this feeling like controlled? I guess where it's like you want it to feel like it's this massive battle, but there needs to be like a cohesiveness to it.
Yeah.
And so that's when things get really dicey, and it's also when you need to keep in mind of what you're adding to it. If it's like, okay, I really want to touch this battle sequence, but okay, if we start adding this kind of detail, we need to add it everywhere, not just in like 3 shots, but like everywhere. And it can get involved.
Yeah, it can get very you can time management. Oh, okay, I see this thing's going up really, really highly detailed. I also want to give like flowers here to like our producer Mike, because like Mike was probably the only one aside from the brothers, the creators of the show, that's been a part of all 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. So when I got approached for the opportunity to work on the show, I didn't even know what Blood of Zeus was. I'm a huge fan of Powerhouse, and I love doing here in particular. I don't know if you have the ability to scrub backwards, but I could talk about something that like Jude definitely helped out on.
Let's start it.
Yeah, cool. We have started here. When I was an artist, and still am an artist, but like, whenever you start, you get a task and you want to make sure it looks amazing, right? But you want to spend time on it. But also like you start seeing your tasks start build up and you start getting stressed out because you have a quota. Yeah. That was something I wanted to make sure like the team wasn't stressed about quota on the show. I mean, we definitely had quota for sure, but that's when like I would make sure that they didn't feel as stressed about like, oh, I'm taking too long on this show. I'm taking too long. I'm taking forever on this, on whatever this effect is or whatever. And what I would always do is like, okay, like make it your own, make it look good, right? Spend your time on it, or else if you're going too quickly, better here at the very end. So I did that constantly on the show, just essentially stealing time a little bit from like something else. And it was great. It worked out, like especially on this episode. This episode was 208 was the last episode of season 2. Like there was a lot of stuff that we had to do and bring it into the final hour. And like, I mean, it got to the point, and I thank you, Dario and Lynn and Steven, for like, when we delivered this last episode from season 2, I think we broke the server, right, Aubrey? Didn't we like, it went down. It went down.
A nice wrench there.
Oh man.
I really, really appreciate, the entire prod staff of like, you know, just because they saw all the stuff that the artists were doing, right, putting everything into it, and it was the same on the production side. They're always there for us. It
Yeah.
was like nice to have that support there, and no one was, you know, stepping on each other's toes. It was very respectful, and it was nice to be a part of that you know, that team in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone on this show really extended themselves as far as they could, and there was, you know, again, the Powerhouse Austin is established, and LA was sort of a newer branch, so we didn't have all the bells and whistles. So there were certain aspects that we had to.
I do want to give a shout out to Aubrey, because, like I said, we talked about compositing, but she is a super amazing illustrator and artist, and definitely I am going to put in the show notes, you know, contact information. Check out both Joseph's and Aubrey's work. Because they do some amazing stuff. I want to kind of, as we kind of close this out, I do want to ask you, because we kind of touched a little bit on it, you know, before the show. What's next, you know, for Aubrey, and what's next for Joseph? You know, I mean,
Before we answer, I love that image that Aubrey did. Dog, can you please put it back up?
yes. Let me go back. That
I
was
absolutely love it so much. When she presented that to us, I laughed, and then you can tell I'm front and center, and I'm laughing very menacing. So, like, I think she captured my essence very spot on. So, thank you, Aubrey. But in general, like this, Aubrey, please talk about this. Please talk
yeah.
about
Please do. Yeah.
Well, I had, you know, again, we had such a team camaraderie, and you know, I had this idea, this incredibly unrealistic idea, because we were spending so much time working on this show. Of I wanted to do something where I did an illustration to highlight a member of our team, and some of it was like in a joking manner, and some of it was just to call someone out, and that was like impossible. I had like no time to do that. So when the show ended, you know, I just wanted to do a fun shout out for the whole team, because again, everyone was so talented on it. We had an amazing team of artists, and you know, we've done our best to shout out as many people as we could during this show, but I do want to encourage people to watch the credits, because
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into this. Like, we're talking from our personal experience, but
Yeah.
obviously there's so many other artists, so many production staff, voice
Yeah.
actors, you know, like this
Yeah.
is a much wider crew. And I encourage you, if you're a fan of the show, of course, support the show, but like watch the credits and reach out and let people know what you think, because
Yeah.
it feels awesome. Like, we've been watching some of the comments, and it means so much to see that people are enjoying our work and enjoy the show. And you know, kind of we kind of touched base on this a little bit, maybe before the show started or maybe during the show, I don't remember anymore, but how, you know, speaking of what's next, like, the animation industry is in sort of a weird moment.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of the show and you work in the industry and you see something you like, be it design work, comp art, you know, whatever it may be in this wide spectrum of art, bring those people up. We all need work.
Yeah.
We all need
Yeah.
work.
We all need
And
work. I don't need work. I wink on that. We
and
all need work.
yeah, like, it's you know, Blood of Zeus, I think, was a show where uh I know for myself, and I think for a lot of people on the show, we thought we found our spot, where it was like, love the people I'm working with. We've got a great flow, like, we all like a rhythm. We all know how each other works. We all know what we can expect from each other. Uh, you know, we're building towards something. It's really fun to like build towards something.
Yeah.
And you know, the industry took a hit, and people's contracts ended, and people had to move on, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. But yeah, it's looking for those next opportunities, those next cool shows to jump on, and seeing what comes along. But you know, we're all trying to help each other out, find that next thing.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm always excited about you know, the independent creators and the things that independent creators are starting to really, get out there. I think we're starting to see this shift where, not just in animation, but in film or just in content creator. Creators are starting to take their own IP, and we talked about this before, and monetize their own IP and take control. So I'm encouraged about this time. Like you said, Joseph, we got all these great tools, Blender, Unreal. So I'm excited to see the things that creators, both big and small, create and come out of the industry. And I'm just so happy to be a part of it. And I can't thank you enough, Aubrey and Joseph, for coming on, being a part of the show, being I always say you're family now, and I always enjoy when family comes back to the show and stops by and updates us with what's going on, because I know you guys are all working on amazing things, and I definitely want to get that out there, and really push the industry forward. And I learn and get a chance to learn and glean from your knowledge as well as others. So thank you both for coming on. Cannot wait, Aubrey, for you to come back on this is your third. I can't wait for you to come back on for number 4. I will say this, because I am trying to get you and your brother on. Because I did message your brother. I hadn't heard back from him, so I know he's busy. But I do want to get you and your brother.
I'll get him on.
Yeah, she's a really good. Aubrey can twist people's arms very
well. That's why I put it out there, and I was like, Aubrey can do it. So Peter,
I'll get him on
if
here.
You're watching, we're trying to get you on.
I have one thing before we all jet off. This is to tack on what Aubrey was saying earlier about watching the credits, and about Don as well. You said about developing your own IP. I recently just saw Sinners last week.
Yep,
it's
Sinners.
an amazing
So good.
movie. It's so fun to watch.
Good.
And
Sinners.
the team that worked on that show or that film, Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan, kudos to all of them.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I love about it as well is that the respect that everybody has for what the team that they did that worked on that feature, right? Like you got people like Tom Cruise tweeting out stay and watch the credits, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like ever since I feel like maybe Marvel, I don't remember who was the first one that started adding those little teasers at the end of the credits to post scenes, right? It gets people to see your friends. You get to see everybody that worked on it, right? That's something I love about watching the credits and giving flowers to all these people that worked on anything.
Yeah. And I tell people, man, if you really want to get a sense of the amount of work and people that go behind a film, any kind of project, just sit, like you said, watch the end credits and see all the names of just people that, touched it, from the director down to the caterer,
And sadly, that's not even everyone who works on the show.
Yeah.
There are some places that give you from your studio, we have 50 names we can put in, and you might have 100 there. So it's that's not even everyone who works on the show. So it's, it's what we got, but there's so many people that go into this, and what Joe and I have talked about this before, Don, we've kind of talked about it too, where I have a pretty optimistic viewpoint where even when things are hard, it's at our hearts, we're passionate about this industry, and people just want to tell stories. And it's a human connectivity that we all have of trying to relate to each other or send a message or form of escapism, whatever it may be. But I love seeing these indie studios getting more out there. Sinners is not an indie studio, but speaking of a lot of the other stuff, that there's interesting stuff cropping up out there. And I hope we get to a place where, speaking of kind of the Marvel movies, there was a point in time where the audience is so used to seeing certain kinds of content that you start ragging on the artists if the quality isn't what you expect it to be. And it's well, no one's working to make something that doesn't look good. Everyone is under an immense amount of pressure and short deadlines. And it's we're all telling stories. Let's have a little forgiveness if something is a little rough around the edges, and just appreciate that something got done and a different voice. Sinners is so unique and so beautiful and interesting and different. And it's like I
Yeah.
applaud that
And
they took a
original.
chance on something. Yeah, it's like,
And original.
yeah, let's take a chance on something different and fresh, and just like we're trying something.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And
And I think that's what
be excited.
encourages me about like flow, and some of these. They're different, and they're breaking that norm of, well, I need to have Maya to do this, or I need to have this software or
Sure.
that to do
Yeah.
this, to do that. And that's not the case. Like you said, in the end, it's story. What's the story? And how it's presented, it's going to be secondary if the story is good, because you're going to be so engrossed in the story.
Yeah. Oh, let's all tell stories.
Let's tell stories. This, like I said, this has been a fun conversation. As much as I hate to bring it into the station, I'm going to have to. But
How dare you.
definitely, Joseph, I hope you have gotten past the little, I hope Aubrey has helped bring you across to where you can do the next episode.
Oh no, my internet broke again. It's just Joe now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is like good to get my feet wet. So like, when the opportunity presents itself, maybe I can do this again, Don. It was fun. I didn't get to answer. I after Blood of Zeus, I've been working on Blender, Unreal, and tapping into Jenga effects, which is the Ember Gem, the real time fluid simulation, which is amazing. And I did get a gig, and I'm not going to say just yet, but I'll make an announcement soon.
Awesome.
But it's fun.
Congrats, because we know
Very
how
blessed.
that challenging that could be. And I do want to ask, before we go, because like you said, you are a creator. But you have stepped into this kind of supervisor managerial role, and sometimes you feel like you do have to leave kind of the sitting down and actually doing the work. Do you plan on keeping yourself in that kind of space? Because I would think if you got on a big production or kind of a bigger company that might silo you into, we just need you. You don't have the time to sit down and actually jump into the effects and the actual work yourself. Do you as a creator want to kind of keep yourself in that space where you do like to keep your hands on?
It's an interesting question.
Or would you like to get into more directorial, higher level supervisor roles?
I'll say this: whatever opportunity comes my way, I will gladly sit with it, look at it, and see what my options are. If it's being artist, or if it's just being a supervisor at a bigger place, I will gladly have the conversations and open everything up. I'm not going to put myself in a box, but I will say if I do have an opportunity to be a supervisor at a bigger place, and I don't have the luxury of doing any kind of art, I'll make sure I have time. I'll always make sure that I'll do something creative. Like that's just something inside of me that I can never let die. It's like the little kid inside of me that just like I have to advocate for that person. And I'm at this space now, right? I'm always going to do something. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, definitely does. Everybody, again, like I said, we are just winding down this amazing special Boz episode of Blood of Zeus. If you haven't checked it out, I would suggest, if you are already a fan, season 3 dropped today. Check out season 3. I'm going to be binging this weekend for sure. But if you haven't seen it yet, you need to start from season 1 and just take a weekend and binge all the way through. For sure. Mr. Dakota, the people need to hear about Joe's new role. I don't know if he can talk about, talk about that. Maybe once he announces it, we'll have him back. Aubrey, inquiring minds want to know.
I'll say it's fun. I'm excited. I'm very excited about this new position. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to hear the announcement. Definitely, Joe. Like you said, you're family now, and you're always welcome on the
Thank
Color
you.
Emotional Live. And definitely, as you're working on things and want to get the word out, like I said, all you got to do is hit me up, just like Aubrey did. Say, hey, we can do this, and we can do it. Aubrey, it's you're always welcome, and I always enjoy you
Thank you.
coming back on the
Same.
show for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Don,
Absolutely.
for
Always a pleasure.
adjusting. For the time difference. Like I know we talked about earlier about like have like this amount of time for myself, and I'm glad that the world's aligned and you made the adjustments on your end to
Oh
to
no,
this
for
work.
me, this is a very small thing, and I love doing it. Definitely want to do more. And as you guys are working on shows and having premieres, please reach out to me and say, "Hey, Don, let's do this." I will do it for sure. Um, if you could, I know it's a little late. If you could hang out for just 1 second in the green room while I
Sure.
close out the show, I would appreciate it. But
Sure.
everybody, again, please help me welcome, or please help me thank my friends for coming on and making this such a great, great episode. Hang out for just a second, Aubrey and Joseph, while I close out the show here.
Sure.
Oh man, this has been a fun episode. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more special episodes and more kind of special reviews. So definitely, as new animations and new things get launched, and like my friends, are working on stuff, definitely going to be bringing them back. Joseph mentioned Sinners. Definitely one of our family members, Luis Gonzales. I don't know if Luis Gonzales. I don't know Aubrey or Joe if you know Luis or have come across him, but he works for Pixar. But he was actually able to do some stuff, storyboards for Sinners. So definitely looking forward to going to try and bring him back on to talk about his experience working with Ryan Coogler and doing stuff with him. So, man, this has been a great episode. Thank you, for coming on. Joe and Aubrey, thank you, the viewers, for tuning in, as always. Timon, thank you for your hard work in creating Blood of Zeus. Yes, it's an amazing piece of work. Like I said, definitely check it out. If you are a fan, check out season 3. If you haven't checked it out yet, like I said, go back to season 1 and just binge watch it. You'll love it. Like I said, I thank you for joining me for this very special episode. We will be back here at our regular time, Saturday. So you definitely don't want to miss it. Like I said, this season 5, our 5th year doing the show, has been an amazing run so far. We're having so much fun. Next week, Saturday is going to be no exception. You definitely want to join us. Join me and Mr. Jeff Rivera, executive producer, Collective 5 Entertainment. We're going to dive a little deeper into the executive side of putting together animations and film projects. So you don't want to miss that with Mr. Jeff Rivera. All right. With that, I think I'm going to close this one out. It's been a fun one. Definitely thank you for giving me a little bit of your time. I will see you Saturday. Same time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.